It's easy to look back over 2020 and think it has just been about the pandemic. I mean, that's what this year has been, but it's easy to miss in there that you remember, like before the pandemic, Trump got impeached this year. And before that, we almost went to war with Iran. That was this year. I know it seems like forever ago, but Donald Trump brought us to the brink of armed conflict with Iran. And the issue is that we've still got a couple more months of him being president. And we narrowly avoided at the beginning of 2020. At the end of 2020, we might not be so lucky. Because according to the New York Times, President Trump asked senior advisors in an Oval Office meeting on Thursday whether he had options to take action against Iran's main nuclear site in the coming weeks. The meeting occurred a day after international inspectors reported a significant increase in the country's stockpile of nuclear material, according to 4 current and former US officials talking with the New York Times just yesterday. Now, when he brought up the possibility of some sort of military action against this nuclear facility, a range of senior advisors dissuaded the president from moving ahead with a military strike. So I guess at least some limited credit to Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, Christopher Miller, Mark Milley for apparently telling him that no, bombing this facility would be a bad thing and might result in bad things. But what we have is a situation where he sees that they're increasing their nuclear stockpile and he gets that he's still the president. And in the background of all of that, he's really mad that he just lost and he's probably still on steroids from his COVID. And he is in a position where if he wanted to launch military action against Iran, he can still do that. He has the power, he legally even can still do that. And so these last couple of months before Biden becomes president could be exciting when it comes to US-Iran relations.
Which is dangerous and scary to even think about that, because I mean, earlier this year, I think the US murdered a high-ranking Iranian official and he fired back. And not killing any Americans, but still, they're not. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't start no mess, don't be no mess. And Iran's the type of country that's like, okay, you start this, we're gonna finish it, right? And the treaty and the accord that we had with Iran per Obama, everything was great, cool. We're everywhere. We're all chill. You stay on your side of the pond, we stay on our side of the pond. But to your point, John, Trump feels like he has to show America or show whoever that he still has some kind of juice. So who are we gonna pick on? Let's find Iran. Iran, who is like, you don't want to fight with me. You don't want this heat, because they will come and rain terror on our country for no apparent reason. And Trump's all about, Americans and the American dream and the American people. Well, putting millions of people in danger by a nuclear event isn't, you making good on your promise to protect the American citizens. And regardless of how you feel about the election, you're fine. You still have 90 days in office. Your job as commander in chief is to put the country first. And by going to war or antagonizing or instigating something with Iran, doesn't lean on you doing that.
Yeah, and I fear like he is a very simple-minded person, relatively predictable in some psychological responses to things, but also a wild card in that who he talks to can have a big effect on what he does. He is probably feeling very angry and rejected and powerless, and he's scared of the future. Immature, emotional, wild people don't necessarily respond well to that. And so I worry that he could go out of 2020 the way he entered into it, wanting some sort of fight to prove that he's a big man or whatever. And that is scary. That is very scary. Now, in terms of the actual situation, the International Atomic Energy Agency did report last week that Iran's uranium stockpile was now 12 times larger than it was than it was permitted to be under the nuclear accord that Trump pulled us out of. But here's the thing, we pulled out of it. The deal was supposed to be, we do certain things, we give certain things, and in return, they don't increase the stockpile, as well as a number of other things. And we have the ability to go in and actually watch for it and make sure that they're abiding by it now. Now, they kept saying, the Republicans, in the lead up to pulling out of that somehow the deal itself was making the threat of them getting nuclear weapons higher than not having the deal. That is the case they made to the American people. So they pulled us out of it. And now their uranium stockpile is 12 times higher than it was before. So their case apparently has been made against them, because it turns out when we're not in the deal, they can produce a lot more uranium than they could when we were. And by the way, they get to do that because we don't have a deal with them anymore. Right. We pulled out of it, they didn't. We broke it, they didn't. This is what happens when you do that. When you break down diplomacy with another country, you don't have the influence to get to say what they do or don't do. And I understand that this is not actually going to come as a shock to the Trump administration. They're not actually surprised to find out that Iran produced more uranium. The case could easily be made that that is the outcome they wanted when they demonized the deal and when they pulled out of it. That they knew that unrestrained by a deal that the US would no longer abide by, Iran would do what Iran is gonna do, which is pursue a nuclear weapon. And why wouldn't they? They're terrified that the US is gonna bomb them at any moment. How do you stop that? In theory, by having a nuclear weapon. So you could say, if you give a little bit of credit to rationality for the Trump administration, that they are setting up the exact situation they want, which is not an Iran that doesn't have nuclear weapons, but an Iran that acts in ways that justifies a military intervention against them, which is what Trump is apparently spending his last couple of months as president looking to accomplish. And it has one other, I apologize for going on, but it has one other knock-on effect, which is in theory, if you were trying to illegally hold on to power as president, having some sort of military conflict going on isn't necessarily incompatible with that. He could try to make the case to his followers that of course you can't force Trump out of office. We're at war with Iran. And I know that that sounds crazy, and I hope that in hindsight it is, but we already almost went to war back when Trump was secure in his presidency and thought that he would remain president for years to come. We no longer have that security, we no longer have that stability. We have a wild, petulant child who's terrified of being dragged out of his house in a couple of months. And if he wants to start dropping bombs, he can. He apparently was dissuaded from it last week, but remember, he's also knocking off the leadership of the Department of Defense on a daily basis, putting into place loyalists who are far less likely to tell him not to do what he wants to do with regards to Iran.
And it doesn't sound far off at all, John. I mean, everything you just said makes complete and total sense. Actually, if you want me to be honest, it's kind of brilliant of a plan for Trump if that's what he's trying to enact. And I think he's gone on record before, I don't know if this is alleged, but him saying that if he doesn't win the presidency, he's going to tank the economy. I think he said that more than once over the last 4 years.
Well, I think he said that if he loses, the economy would tank.
Okay, something to that effect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a brilliant plan to try to stay in office if you really strip it away and look at it from like an extreme train of thought, John. But back to my point though, is it smart? No. Who at the end of the day, who is it going to impact? American citizens, America. So petulant, childlike, everything you've used to describe 45 is on the money, because only a person with those type of attributes in their personality would go down that route and try to enact that type of plan to stay in power. Whatever reason. And also, by the way, he's also a narcissist. Just want to put that out there too.
Yeah, and by the way, look, I was very critical, obviously, of Obama's foreign policy in a number of different areas. This wasn't one of them, because that was a better way to get what we wanted, which was a non-nuclear Iran and relative stability in the region, was pursuing diplomacy. Trump has a different strategy. Joe Biden is gonna do when he becomes president, God only knows how many things that are gonna infuriate us when it comes to foreign policy. But if he can resume that deal and once again clear out their stockpile, as was done the last time, that would put us in a much better position than Donald Trump seems to be gearing up for. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.